Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Bob here. Thanks so much for stopping by. So today we're going to be taking a look at one of the latest from G-Shock's very popular new GA-2100 line. The watch that we're looking at today is actually a 2110, still in the same family of watches though. I've had it for a few days now. I've been wearing it very regularly and really enjoying it, although there's some cons, particularly one con that comes along with all of the pros of this watch. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but let's get into the G-Shock. So last year, G-Shock came out with the original lineup of 3 watches: the blacked out version that was very popular, the black and gray, and then the red. They were a massive hit, and G-Shock is now coming out with some follow-up colorways, including this new kind of a militaristic style version here. One thing straight away I will say that I liked with the watch, and one of the reasons I usually stick with these squares like I have in the background here, is the thickness. It's a very slender watch. A lot of G-Shock models can be a little tall on wrist, and I always find myself going back to the squares for that reason, but these make for a great alternative now. I want to get straight to the one big negative with the watch. This probably won't matter to everybody, but it'll be a deal breaker, I'm sure, for some, and that is the legibility of the digital display. This module gives us the time, world time, stopwatch, countdown timer, and alarm on the digital display. They're, at least for me, very hard to use. If I want to strain, I can make it out, but for practical uses, it's just not very useful. That's partly due to the negative display, but mostly it's the size of the display. On the flip side, the time reading is very legible, so if you're using this primarily for time and don't need the functions, the watch is great. If you need those functions, I'd recommend something along the lines of a square. The handset they're using is big, bold, and contrasts the dial, making it very easy to read at a quick glance. There's a fair amount happening on the dial with the LED display and the day indicator, but there's something about the layout that just looks really good. One thing I should mention, if you press the button on the top right as well as the button on the bottom left at the same time, it will move the hands out of the way of that LED display if they happen to be covering it. The hands are loomed, and the display has a backlight as well as a small LED light to light up the dial. The loom isn't particularly strong, but with the LEDs, it's easy to read in low light. The case design definitely has strong G-Shock DNA, and although it has picked up the nickname the Casio, the design was inspired by the original G-Shock, the DW5000C. They're using the new carbon core guard materials. I'm not sure if you can make that out, but you can kind of see it around the edge of the case back. It's black against the green. It's a great case design, and I couldn't confirm, but I've read from a couple of sources that it's G-Shock's thinnest ever anti-digi watch with a thickness of only 11.8 millimeters. It's actually thinner than my 5610, which comes in at a little over 12 millimeters. The case comes in at a width of 45 millimeters at its widest point, although it doesn't wear like a 45 millimeter watch at all. The watch doesn't really have lugs, but where the straps meet the case, the measurement from one to the other is 46.7 millimeters. And while we're talking numbers, the watch has a water resist of 200 meters. The strap is one you'll recognize right away. It's identical to the G-Shock square straps. Same feel, same hardware. The one difference is these do have the new G-Shock quick release system. And while we're comparing actually the two watches, the G-Shock, the GA-2100 and the square, one other big nice change that I really like is the fact that the buttons are so much larger on the new models, much easier to operate. On wrist, it wears very well. It's lightweight, comfortable, and I think one of my favorite G-Shocks in terms of the overall look and design. It lacks somewhat in functionality compared to other G-Shocks, at least with my eyes and the small display, but it's still a great watch if those are functions that you don't often use. So I have one more video coming out on the watch to look out for. I have some parts on the way and plan to mod this watch. So look out for that in the very near future. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Be safe out there. I know things are a little crazy right now, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.